Breaking tonight, the story making news again. Many in the media hailing Congressman Trey Gowdy's appearance here last night for apparently debunking what the president refers to as spygate. Listen.
President Trump himself, in the Comey memos, said if anyone connected with my campaign was working with Russia, I want you to investigate it. And it sounds to me like that is exactly what the FBI did.
Our own Judge Andrew Napolitano joins us in a moment. He shared a similar opinion.
The Trump people think that the FBI had an undercover agent who inveigled his way into the campaign and was there as a spy on the campaign seem to be baseless. There's no evidence for that whatsoever.
Here is some of the strong reaction from the media.
President Trump's prior conspiracy theory, Spygate, was just debunked on Fox News by a GOP lawmaker, no less.
God bless Trey Gowdy for saying this, but the FBI did it by the book.
His remarks are astounding.
Judge Andrew Napolitano, he's a Fox News legal analyst, who has been a defender of the president through and through. He called the president's claim that the FBI placed an undercover spy in the campaign, quote, baseless.
Nothing to see here, guys. Chill.
Earlier this evening, I got Judge Andrew Napolitano's reaction. Do you agree with the commentators that we just showed that you're calling out the president and basically debunking his theory of Spygate?
Well, I'm relying on the accuracy of what Trey Gowdy reported to you and what, candidly, he told me about before the show started, because he knew I was going to be on last night to comment on him. He has a top secret security clearance. He saw all these documents. Assuming he saw the right documents and wasn't misled by Deputy Attorney General Rosenstein or FBI Director Wray, which I think is extremely unlikely that they would have misled him, and he basically said, yes, the FBI used an informant, and they did that by the book. No, the FBI did not have a spy inside the campaign, as the president and his most articulate spokesperson these days on the legal side, former Mayor Giuliani, have been claiming. So, yes, I do agree with that.
But you and everybody else who's talked about this has said that a spy and an informant are basically the same thing, depending on which side of the fence you're on.
Yes. Yes. So a spy,
so why are they different
a spy is the other guy's informant,
right.
An informant is your guy. But if by spy, because Rudy Giuliani said an FBI agent undercover, if by spy they mean a human being that is a government agent pretending to be somebody else on the inside of the campaign, where the right to privacy is protected, where the Fourth Amendment protects the conversations,
right, so you think
they would need a search warrant for that.
You think that the Trump campaign believes that there was an FBI-hired person working in the campaign?
Pretending to be somebody else, an agent of the government. For that, they'd need a search warrant. And that's what Trey Gowdy says there is zero evidence
I'm not sure that they have clearly said that they believe that it was someone who was being paid by the FBI and who was working in the campaign. Are they talking about the same person that we're all talking about? Someone who was on the periphery of the campaign, who was, basically emailing out of the blue Carter Page and George Papadopoulos and saying, hey, let's meet up. I'd like to talk to you. I mean, clearly fishing to see if the Russians were going after them. And there's no problem with that. But aren't we all talking about the same thing?
Not only is there no problem with that, it is unremarkable that we're talking about it, because the government does this all the time. Rudy Giuliani perfected this when he was the U.S. attorney, and it was upheld by the courts. You send somebody who may pretend to be someone other than they are to have a conversation in a public place. This is very important, because in a public place, the Fourth Amendment does not pertain. If somebody shows up and says, I want to work for the campaign, and makes his way to the inside, and that person is really an undercover FBI agent.
If some of these peripheral folks in the campaign were being approached by Russians, did Russians come up to them and say, I've got some dirt on Hillary Clinton, and did they go back and forth on that?
Those are lawful conversations.
Absolutely. But here's what's different in this situation. This is the middle of a presidential campaign, right? Do any different rules apply, given the fact that the outcome of this moment is going to produce a new president of the United States? Did they have, and you said last night, that's a judgment call when I asked you about that. Did they have the onus on them to say, and as Trey Gowdy pointed out, the president said, look, if there's somebody infiltrating the campaign, or there's somebody who's trying to, speak to my folks from Russia, I want to know about it. Why didn't they tell him about it?
I really don't know. I told you last night, if I were making the calls, I would have told either the candidate or the campaign manager. They made a judgment not to.
But what's the motivation not to?
Well, they haven't said. Either their presence was illicit or they felt that by telling more people than was necessary, the word would get out.
Well, how about this idea, that it dries up your lead into the campaign?
It may very well do that. And so that would be a very legitimate law enforcement-based reason for not announcing your presence. That's why I said it's a judgment call. But then when they come across the dossier,
James Comey says he was compelled. He had to tell the president about that piece, but not any of the other stuff. So why did they make that judgment call and not the rest of the story?
Well, you're asking the wrong person. You'd have to ask Comey if he ever was willing to sit here. But as I told you last night, I disagree with their decision not to tell Trump, because if I were the candidate, I would want to know, wait a minute, my campaign is surrounded by the FBI and they claim they're here to protect me? I'd want to know about it.
And the reason that it raises all these questions for the president is because he knows that the people who are running the investigation were saying all these nasty things about him in their text messages all the time. So he's saying there's more to that than this. Well, yes, I understand that that's normal procedure.
If we're talking about the professor, whose name we're not supposed to use here, having conversations in public places with Carter Page, with Sam Clovis, with George Papadopoulos.
Right, nothing illegal about that.
Correct. But if we're talking about a human being who made it to the inside of the campaign, and they thought this was a campaign worker and it was really an FBI agent, they need a search warrant for that. And for that, there is no evidence.
I got to ask you one quick question. Jeff Sessions, the president says, you know what? I shouldn't have hired him. There's a lot of good lawyers out there. Do you agree?
The president is right. It pains me to say it because he's been a friend of mine for 20 years. But the president is right. The president is entitled to an attorney general with whom he has an open conversation, an open level of communication with great confidence, sort of like Bobby and Jack Kennedy had, almost, even though Mitchell went to jail, like Nixon and Mitchell had, but an intimate level of communication, not one where the president is afraid of what he's saying to the AG.
Judge Napolitano, always good to see you, sir. Thank you very much.
Pleasure.